When you execute a trade, it feels, well, instant, right? You click a button and boom, it's done. But that's really just the beginning of the story. Behind the scenes, there's this incredibly complex and absolutely vital process that kicks off to make sure that promise actually becomes a reality. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the market's hidden plumbing, the clearing and settlement system. Let's dive in.
So let's say you just bought a futures contract or you sold an option. What happens now? It's not magic, I can tell you that. It's actually a highly engineered journey that your trade is about to take, and it's a journey designed to guarantee that everything completes safely and securely.
Because at its very core, every single trade is just a promise. One person promises to deliver something and the other person promises to pay for it. But what if that promise gets broken? I mean, what if the person on the other side of your trade just ghosts you, vanishes? Then what? Well, that fear has a name, and it's the single biggest fear in any financial transaction: counterparty risk. It's the ghost in the machine. Because if you can't trust the other side to honor their deal, the entire market would just grind to a halt. So how on earth did we build a system to solve this fundamental problem of trust?
Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to follow the journey of a trade through 5 key stages. First, we'll see who steps in to guarantee the whole thing. Then we'll look at how that guarantor protects itself. After that, how the final score gets settled. And finally, we'll check out the market's ultimate safety net. Right, so to solve that huge problem of counterparty risk, the market basically created a hero, a powerful central player, the ultimate guarantor.
And our hero is the Clearing Corporation. Now, you should think of it as a financial middleman with superpowers. It stands right in between every single buyer and every single seller, and in doing so, it completely removes the risk of one person defaulting on another. See, instead of trusting thousands of strangers, now everyone only has to trust this one highly regulated and heavily fortified entity. The magic trick that makes this all possible is a legal process called novation. Okay, so as soon as your trade is executed, the Clearing Corporation novates the contract. This means your original deal with that stranger, it gets torn up, and instantly 2 new ones are created. The Clearing Corp becomes the seller to you, the buyer, and it becomes the buyer to the original seller. It's this brilliant swap that puts a fortress between you and the other party. So here's how it works in practice. Step 1, you make a trade. Instantly, the Clearing Corporation jumps in and starts calculating everyone's obligations. It nets out all the positions. So, if you buy 100 contracts but sell 80, you're only really on the hook for 20. And then, here's the most important part. It puts its money where its mouth is and guarantees that every single one of these trades will be settled. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now that guarantee, that's a massive promise. So you have to wonder, how can one entity possibly afford to take on the risk of the entire market? Well, it doesn't do it for free, and it definitely doesn't do it without some serious insurance. So what's the secret sauce here? How does this central guarantor stay safe, even if, say, a massive player goes completely bankrupt? Well, the answer is one of the most important concepts in all of trading. It's called margin, and you should just think of it like a security deposit. Before you can even place a trade, you have to post collateral. Now, this isn't a fee you pay, it's a good faith deposit that's held by the Clearing Corporation to cover any potential losses. It's the system's way of making sure that absolutely everyone has skin in the game. And there are 2 main types. First, you've got the initial margin. That's the deposit you pay right up front. It's calculated to cover a potential worst-case, one-day loss. Then, and this is so important, every single day there's the mark-to-market margin. This is a daily cash settlement. If your position lost value today, you pay up. If it gained value, you get paid. This daily cleanup is crucial. It prevents small losses from snowballing into a huge system-wide crisis. All right, so margins protect the system while the trade is live. But what happens at the very end of the line, on expiration day? Well, it's time for the final handshake, where the contract's promise is finally fulfilled. And there are basically 2 ways this can go down. For things like index futures and options, it's a simple cash settlement. No actual assets move, just cash. The final profit or loss is just transferred between accounts. But for derivatives on things like individual stocks, it's physical delivery. Yep, if you're long a stock future, you are legally obligated to buy the actual shares. And if you're short, you got to deliver them.
So let's quickly break down the obligations for stock options that expire in the money. If you're holding a long call, you have the obligation to buy the shares at the strike price. If you're short that same call, you're obligated to sell them. Now for puts, it's just the reverse. A long put means you have to sell shares, and a short put means you are obligated to buy them. This right here, this is the final fulfillment of that contract's promise.
Okay, so margins and settlement procedures. They're like the frontline defenses. But the system has even deeper layers of protection. You can think of it like it's layered in armor, designed to withstand a major market shock. And a key piece of that armor is position limits. Regulators actually prevent any single trader or firm from building up a position so massive that it could manipulate or destabilize the entire market. It's a really vital check on concentration risk, and it makes sure no single player can become too big to fail, at least within a specific contract. And these limits aren't just one simple rule either. They're applied at multiple levels. There are limits for you, the individual client. Then there are limits for the brokerage firms, the trading members. And there's even a market-wide position limit that caps the total number of contracts that can even exist for a specific stock's derivatives. It's a real defense-in-depth strategy. But what if the unthinkable happens? What if a clearing member, one of the core players, actually defaults, and their margins aren't enough to cover the damage? Well, that's when the ultimate backstop kicks in, the Settlement Guarantee Fund. This is a massive pool of emergency money contributed by all the members, and it's designed to absorb a catastrophic failure and make sure the rest of the market doesn't even feel a tremor. And this really brings us right back to the heart of the matter. The clearing corporation does two absolutely critical things. It becomes the legal counterparty to every single trade, and it guarantees their financial settlement. That dual role is what transforms a chaotic market of individual promises into a secure, centralized system built on a single ironclad guarantee. So there you have it, the incredible, pretty much invisible engineering that happens behind every single trade you make. It's this complex system of guarantees, margins, and safety nets, all designed for one thing: stability. It protects today's market, and it has weathered major storms in the past. But the final question always remains. As markets get faster and new risks emerge, is this hidden plumbing strong enough for whatever tomorrow's crisis